The sun was slipping lower when I parked in front of the beach house, the one I had worked nearly 2 decades to claim as mine. The air was thick with the scent of salt and cut grass, that mix you only find near the ocean in early summer. I let myself pause before unlocking the door, because it still stunned me. $3 million, every dollar earned through years of 14-hour days, back-to-back audits, and tax seasons where I lived on caffeine more than food. It wasn't just a house. It was proof that I hadn't worked myself hollow for nothing. Inside, the dining room was already glowing with soft lamplight. I laid the table carefully, linen napkins, the good wine glasses I rarely used, and the serving dishes that reminded me of dinners my mother once presided over when I was a girl. I wanted tonight to be simple. Good food, ocean breeze, maybe a toast that didn't turn into an argument. I checked the oven again, then glanced out the window when headlights swept across the driveway. Their car pulled up, moving slower than usual, as though they were pulling into their own home. My chest tightened, a flicker of nerves I pushed down. I told myself it was just anticipation. This was my celebration. I walked out to greet them. "You made it," I said, forcing brightness into my voice. My father stepped out first, straightening his jacket even though it was just dinner at the beach. "Nice place," he muttered, not looking at me but scanning the shingles, the porch light, the hedges. My mother followed, lips curved into a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "You've done well," she said, kissing my cheek lightly. "I knew you'd manage eventually." Eventually, as if the years hadn't been spent proving I could manage all along. Still, I led them inside, keeping my tone easy. "Dinner's ready." I thought we'd sit near the window, let the breeze in. They nodded, settled into chairs, and for a moment it felt almost normal. Small talk about the drive, my mother adjusting the flowers in the vase, my father running a hand over the polished wood of the table as if testing it. I poured the wine, trying to enjoy what I'd planned as a milestone. The clinking of silverware and the hum of the ocean outside should have been comforting, but the atmosphere felt off. My father insisted on pouring his own glass first, raising it slightly as if to remind me who used to hold authority at family dinners. My mother rearranged the plates I'd already set, sliding hers closer to the head of the table, nudging mine a few inches aside. Conversation began politely enough. How busy Boston traffic had been, how the weather looked promising for the weekend. Then, little cracks began to show. "You work too much," my mother said suddenly, shaking her head. "No man will wait around forever for someone who spends her nights with spreadsheets." I set my fork down slowly. "I'm fine with the choices I've made," I said evenly. My father cleared his throat. "Family legacy matters more than careers. Houses like this, they should carry the family name, not just one person's ambition." Something in the room shifted then. My chest grew tight, but I kept my voice level. This was supposed to be a celebration, I thought to myself, not another trial. He leaned back, quoting one of his favorite lines, the kind he'd used before when I was a teenager pushing back. "Family comes before business," he said. I smiled faintly, but inside I bristled. I had spent years proving that business was the reason this family wasn't drowning in debt. But I didn't fight it. Not yet. Then it came. My father's voice, sharper than the edge of his knife against the plate. "This house is ours, not yours. Get out." I blinked, sure I had misheard. "Excuse me?" My mother's tone was calm, almost soothing, but her words gutted me. "You bought this with our support. It belongs to the family." I laughed once, short and disbelieving. "I signed the contract. I paid every cent." Father leaned forward. "We raised you. We sacrificed for you. It's your turn to give back." My stomach turned. Give back? By handing over the only thing that's truly mine? Mother's lips tightened. "You've always acted like your achievements were separate. They're not. Everything comes from us." I felt my hands trembling, but I pressed them flat against my lap, refusing to give them the satisfaction of seeing me crack. The stories of friends who had watched their parents manipulate them out of money, houses, even retirement accounts came flooding to me. Families in this country sometimes use guilt sharper than any weapon. And here I was, sitting in the middle of my own cautionary tale. I didn't shout. I didn't throw my glass across the room, even though a part of me wanted to. I held the silence instead. Silence can sting more than any retort. I watched my parents shift, mistaking my quiet for weakness. They thought I was stunned into submission. I excused myself, stepping outside into the cooler air. My heart pounded, my breaths short, but the salt breeze grounded me. I leaned against the porch railing, then glanced toward the mailbox by the road. Something caught my eye. The brass nameplate I had ordered last month, my name engraved in clean letters, was gone. In its place, a new plate gleamed under the porch light. My father's name. The air felt like it had been punched out of me. I walked slowly down the steps, touched the cold metal. My name had been erased, replaced like I was a tenant who had overstayed her welcome. It wasn't just the dinner. It wasn't just words over wine and plates. It was a declaration, a claim staked in steel letters. That night, I realized they weren't just visiting. They weren't here to celebrate me. They were here to take... I turned back to the glowing windows of the house I had built for myself. My humiliation burned into anger, sharper than any insult could. I whispered to the dark, "This isn't over." It wasn't just dinner. It was the first shot in a war I never wanted, but one I was prepared to fight. I stayed standing in the doorway, my father's words still echoing. "Without us, you'd have nothing." They seemed to hang in the air long after he'd spoken, pressing against my ribs. I refused to let my pulse betray me. I drew in a slow breath, counted silently like I would in an audit. Facts first, panic never. I lowered my voice, even, deliberate. "What exactly do you mean by that?" He didn't meet my eyes. His fingers tightened around the wine bottle, like it was a gavel he could use to end discussion. My mother filled the silence, her tone soft but loaded. "Your life was built on what we provided, food, shelter, the countless sacrifices we made." I glanced at the table. Her napkin, folded into a sharp triangle, sat like a small flag planted in my house. Control in small things. I steadied myself. Reagan's old line drifted through my head. "Trust, but verify." "I hear you," I said calmly, "but words like that require proof." I wouldn't argue over feelings at the dinner table. Numbers belonged in files, not in shouted claims. I chose poise. The night wasn't going to unravel on their terms. It would shift on mine. Then came the rewrite. My father leaned forward. "This place, $3 million? That wasn't all you. It came from years of family support." I blinked once, keeping my tone steady. "Be specific. What support are you claiming?" He cleared his throat. "We floated you after grad school." I remembered exactly what he meant. A $1,200 short-term loan in 2012, paid back, with interest. I keep ledgers. My mother spoke next, voice low. "We gave you life. That counts." I shook my head gently. Giving life is not an equity instrument. Their eyes flickered, betraying uncertainty. They weren't ready for my precision. I explained carefully, as if presenting to an audience of strangers who didn't understand mortgages. The down payment came from my account. The title is in my name. The closing disclosure, the HUD statement, the wire confirmations, all mine. Those are the records. They exchanged looks. I didn't fetch the papers tonight. Not yet. I wanted them to keep talking themselves into overreach. I leaned back, voice quiet but hard. "The deed is my voice, and I won't be signing anything tonight." They flinched, surprised by my refusal. That was my first small win, momentum tilting away from them. They rose from the table and began walking the kitchen like realtors. My father opened cabinets, muttering, "We'll put the espresso machine here." My mother pointed toward the hallway. "Your sister's boys will have the bunk room." The pronouns cut like glass. My house became our home in their mouths, a theft by language. I trailed behind, cataloging. In disputes like this, what mattered in Massachusetts was clear: the deed, the mortgage note, tax records, not utilities, not who happened to stand in the kitchen. I asked evenly, "Who put those towels in the bathroom?" They were embroidered with initials I didn't recognize. Mother's smile was smooth. "They look more like us." Instead of shouting, I pulled out my phone, snapped photographs, time-stamped, Close-ups, quiet audits, like I'd done for years at work. They mistook my silence again. They thought humiliation would break me. It didn't. It slid into steel. I slipped outside before words tipped into chaos. My turf, my timing. At the curb, a neighbor walked by with a golden lab. He waved cheerfully. "Congratulations! Your parents told us this is their retirement home." The word retirement struck like a slap. Already the story was spreading. I forced my face neutral, New England polite. "Thanks," I said evenly. "What's your name?" "Earl," he answered, nodding. "Saw them meet with a handyman earlier. Big plans?" My pulse sharpened. "Repairs, arranged without me." "Which contractor?" I asked casually. He told me, and I filed the name away. I smiled, thanked him, and walked back toward the porch. Inside, shame burned, but I forced it into focus. The narrative was being seeded in public. Let them. The bigger the lie, the harder it collapses under paper. I reached the doorway, lifted the towels from the rack, folded them neatly, and set them by the door with a sticky note. "Not yours to place." I looked them in the eye. "Tonight is over. Tomorrow at noon. Bring whatever documentation you think you have. I'll bring mine." My father tried to corner me. "We're staying. You can go." I met his stare. This isn't a stalemate. It's a record. I picked up my purse, slid my laptop inside. Essentials only. No drama. Before stepping out, I photographed the new lock face, clean evidence for later. I walked to my car on my own terms, not shoved, not shouted down. The silent line intact. On the drive to a small motel downtown, I spoke into my phone for my own record, and for anyone listening later. Title outranks possession. Utilities don't prove ownership. Neighbors repeating lies don't change deeds. I pulled into the gravel lot, checked in with a credit card, and settled into a modest room with thin curtains and a flickering lamp. "In God we trust," I whispered. "All others bring data." I opened my planner, outlined the morning, call my closing attorney, request certified copies from the title company, contact the contractor the neighbor named. I set reminders to pull my HUD statement, my wire confirmations. I would not argue feelings again. I would answer only with facts. That night, I lay down, not defeated, but sharpened. Let them tell their stories. I was already building my file. They wanted a tale the neighbors would believe. I wanted a record a judge would respect. I didn't sleep much at the motel. The walls were thin, the curtains flimsy, and the hum of the air conditioner only made me more aware of how restless I was. I lay flat, eyes tracing the cracks in the ceiling, replaying every sentence from the night before, but forcing myself not to drown in it. I cataloged instead, like an auditor would. What was said, who said it, what evidence was already in my favor, and what I still needed. Facts over noise. Keep receipts. Never argue where a signature will suffice. Those were the rules I had lived by in my career, and now they became my defense in my own home. I reached for my phone on the nightstand, set 3 alarms, one for the title company, one for my closing attorney, and one to remind me to stop by a hardware store for time-stamped photos of the locks. I wasn't about to confront anyone today. I'd build my case with quiet steps. The temptation to text my parents lingered in my fingers, but I pulled back. Silence wasn't weakness. Silence was a boundary. Boundaries had been ignored for years in this family, but they would start with me now. Lying there, I thought about what the night had taught me. Emotional restraint buys tactical clarity. In family disputes, the person who doesn't scream is the person who holds the pen. As the first light pressed through the curtains, another memory surfaced. I could almost hear the gulls before I even stepped outside. I carried that memory with me to the small beach nearby. The tide was low, the sand damp under my sneakers, and in the pink wash of sunrise I went back decades to a rented cottage we'd once shared. I remembered my father standing with me at the shoreline, his arms stretched out toward the horizon. "One day, kiddo, we'll have a place by the sea," he told me. His voice had carried conviction, and as a child I believed him. We'd flown cheap kites bought from a roadside store, eaten peanut butter sandwiches wrapped in wax paper, and fallen asleep to the muffled thrum of waves outside that old cabin. They were modest American rituals, but they carved a dream deep into me. I saw myself again at 16, working weekends at a diner, counting tips in crumpled bills, whispering, "I'll make it real one day." That vow outlasted every late-night audit, every missed holiday, every overtime shift. The $3 million wasn't a trophy. It was a promise I had fulfilled to myself. And yet, last night, they had tried to snatch it from me as though it were theirs by default. That cottage dream planted by my father had carried me this far. I chose to honor it. He had chosen to exploit it. I brushed sand off my hands and whispered into the sea air. Elders plant dreams. Adults decide whether to honor or destroy them. I made my choice. Walking back toward my car, another memory pushed in. My mother's voice, years earlier, when she clasped my hands after I bought my first small condo in Boston. She had said with tenderness, "We'll never take what's yours." And yet last night she had calmly declared, "This is ours." That shift from never to now was more than betrayal. It was a covenant broken. I pictured it like a ledger, the way I always made sense of imbalance, credits, the love, the meals, the roof they once gave, debits, the control, the erasure, the rewriting of my effort. For years, I let the math slide in their favor, but now, the numbers no longer justified silence. They liked to parrot the old saying, "Possession is 9/10 of the law." But as I stood there watching the sun rise higher, I spoke out loud to myself. Title beats tails, every time. The decision solidified. I wasn't going to debate voices. I would litigate with documents if I had to. After coffee from a roadside diner, I drove by the beach house, slow, deliberate. I parked legally on the public street. I didn't touch the doorknob. I didn't test the lock. Instead, I pulled out my phone and began photographing. Wide shots of the exterior, the mailbox still bearing my father's nameplate instead of mine, the new welcome mat I had never bought. Metadata stamped on each photo. A jogger passed, waving cheerfully. I waved back. Neutral tone, no talk of disputes. You don't brief strangers on battles still underway. I pulled up my voice memo app. Utilities show occupancy, not ownership, I dictated. Locks can be changed overnight. Smoke isn't fire. Ownership is proven in paper. I got back into the car without knocking. That restraint was intentional. It mattered more to win the record than to win a single morning standoff. At a cafe in town, I spread out my planner, ordered a black coffee, and began writing my to-do list. First call, the title company. I'd confirm certified copies of the deed, the owner's title policy, and ensure all were ready for me to collect. Second, my closing attorney. He would resend the closing disclosure and the wire confirmations from the day I purchased. Third, the contractor Earl the neighbor had mentioned. I would halt any unauthorized work before it even began. I scribbled in the margins, "In God we trust. All others bring data." Ownership wasn't built on stories told at parties. It lived in the records of banks and registries. Before finishing my coffee, I opened my email and drafted a calm message to my parents. Meeting at noon, public place. Bring any documents you believe support your claim. I will bring mine. I typed it, attached nothing, and pressed send. Before leaving, I pulled a small card from my wallet and wrote 3 lines. No surprise visits, no overnight guests, no changes without my written consent. I tucked it back like a pocket constitution. I sent my sister a 1-sentence text. Do not post my property again. Then I screenshot her prior post for record keeping. I propped my phone against the sugar jar on the table, hit record, and filmed a short video affidavit. I stated my name, the date, my ownership, and my plan for the day, time-stamped, saved to the cloud. My own sworn statement, even if only to myself. I closed my journal with one final note. Boundaries are the distance at which I can love you and me simultaneously. I drained the last of my coffee, stood up, and straightened my jacket. This wasn't vengeance, it was governance. At noon, I wouldn't bring anger. I would bring the deed. I woke with the weight of the day pressing down, though the clock said it was barely mid-morning. The motel room smelled faintly of detergent and stale coffee, but I ignored it and laid my files out again. I reread the scans of the deed, the wire confirmations, the summary I'd typed out for myself. Deed debate. That phrase was circled in pen, a shield against the theater I knew I was walking into. My phone buzzed nonstop with group messages, sister chiming in, parents piling on, a cousin or two weighing in like it was their business. I muted every alert. They thrived on pulling me into noise. Today, I would not give them that satisfaction. I had already chosen the cafe near the harbor, windows wide, cameras above the counter, plenty of witnesses. This was not going to be another ambush behind closed doors. My words for the opening were rehearsed. Show your documents, I'll show mine. No signatures today. When I dressed, I didn't choose armor. I chose competence. Simple blazer, flat shoes. I wanted to look like what I was, an adult woman who built her own life, not a daughter playing house. I arrived early. The air smelled of salt and frying cod from a diner down the block. I ordered water, sat by the window, and stacked my folder neatly. At 11:45, the door chimed. My sister slid into the seat across from me without asking. She smirked, voice dripping with disdain. Baby sisters don't own beach houses. Grow up. I didn't flinch. Names on deeds aren't assigned by birth order, I said, tone sharp but measured. Do you have documents? She pulled out a packet, printouts of her viral post, hundreds of likes circled in red marker. That's proof enough. The family agrees. I let my eyes move from the papers back to her. Paper over posts, I answered. County records decide property, not social media. Her mouth twisted. Mom and Dad deserve comfort. You're selfish, clinging to everything like a miser. I leaned in slightly. Comfort isn't confiscation. They don't get to rewrite ownership because they want a summer retreat. She huffed, shoved her chair back an inch. You'll regret humiliating us. I opened my notes app under the table, typed quickly. 11:50 a.m. Sister said, baby sisters don't own houses. Proof equals post likes. Words logged. Her glare bounced off me like water on stone. At 11:55, my parents entered, together. My father's shoulders square, my mother clutching a folder too tightly. They didn't waste time. We raised you, my father started, voice low but firm. Sacrificed careers, paid for camps, kept a roof over your head. Yes, I replied. You did sacrifice, and I repaid every loan, every cent. I also built this with my own income. My mother leaned forward. Family comes before business. This house belongs to blood, not paper. I met her eyes. Ownership isn't abandonment, it's responsibility. Her lips pinched. She tried a different weapon, scripture. Honor your father and mother. Honor, I said quietly, isn't a deed transfer. My father slapped a folder onto the table. Sign a family use agreement today. That's final. I placed both hands flat, palms calm. No signatures today. No exceptions. My voice stayed level, body language open, though every muscle in me tensed. I reminded myself silently, the calmest person owns the room. I pulled out a printed notice, date stamped, 3 simple conditions. No more posts of my property. No overnight stays without written permission. No contractors engaged without my consent. I slid it across the table. My sister laughed out loud. You think that piece of paper makes you in charge? Laughing doesn't void ownership, I answered, sliding it back in front of her when she tried to shove it away. My mother's tone sharpened. You're making this ugly. I shook my head. I'm making it clear. If you believe you have a claim, bring your paperwork now, or through counsel. I nodded toward the barista behind the counter, who glanced back knowingly. I had explained earlier, if voices rose, call it out, keep order. Public space was my strategy. I spoke slower. This isn't about yelling, it's about showing. That's what noon is for. For those watching me, I wanted the lesson plain. Family help rarely creates ownership unless it's written, recorded. Feelings aren't filings. County records decide rights, not group chats or party toasts. I live by 3 rules. No surprises, no signatures under pressure, no private showdowns. While my family stared, I tapped my phone, drafting a quick summary email to myself of everything said so far. Time-stamped, logged. If this ever landed in mediation, my record would be cleaner than theirs. I sipped water, slowed my breathing, and thought, this isn't about winning the cafe. It's about setting up the moment later when their story collapses under the weight of facts. At exactly noon, my sister's phone buzzed. She smirked. Dad brought a notary. My pulse didn't jump. A notary can watch. They can't compel. My father placed a manila folder on the table, its tab labeled Family Agreement in thick black ink. I didn't reach for it. Please set it down, I said. Chain of custody matters. I laid my own folder on top of my bag, my copy of the deed inside, but I didn't open it yet. Timing was leverage. I looked at each of them in turn. We will proceed with documents only, not demands. The door opened. A notary entered, two relatives trailing behind, faces tense, rehearsed for pressure. They scanned the room, ready to witness my supposed capitulation. I sat taller in my chair, my spine unbending. They came with signatures. I came with ownership. The cafe smelled faintly of roasted beans and salt air drifting in from the harbor. I sat straight-backed, folder closed before me, repeating the line I had rehearsed. We will proceed with documents, not demands. My voice stayed low, even. My father wasted no time. He slid a folder labeled Family Use Agreement across the table. I didn't touch it. Chain of custody matters, I said. And you know a notary witnesses consent. They don't create it. Mother's lips curved in a thin smile. Stop making this so formal. Just sign. This is family. I shook my head. No surprises, no signatures under pressure, no private showdowns. Those are the rules. My sister leaned forward, waving printouts of her viral post like they were affidavits. Look at this. Hundreds of likes. Everyone agrees it's ours. County records beat comment sections, I answered flatly. The tension rose, voices overlapping, hands pointing. I stayed still, steady. Finally, when my father's voice pitched higher, I stood. This is over. We'll reconvene only with counsel present. Calm ends the scene. I walked out without glancing back. By late afternoon, I parked on the public road outside my house. From the sidewalk, I could see them all on the porch as though staging a showing. My parents with arms crossed, my sister hovering with her phone. Boxes stacked near the door. Their posture screamed possession. Father's voice carried, "Sign now and we'll let you stay tonight." Ownership is not a sleepover privilege, I replied evenly. Mother's tone sharpened. If you leave again, don't come back without permission. I lifted my phone, speaking for record. Possession can be loud, title is quiet. Quiet still wins. I raised the camera, documented each detail, faces, boxes, the door behind them, time-stamped, evidence. I'll retrieve essentials only if invited, I said. No, Father barked. So I stayed on the sidewalk, restraint deliberate, every step calculated. Then came the spectacle. My sister appeared, dragging my overnight bag. It was sloppily stuffed with a few clothes I recognized from the guest closet. She set it down beside the welcome mat, as though it were lost luggage abandoned at an airport. She smirked. Baby sisters don't own beach houses, remember? I raised my phone, photographing the bag's placement, the frame of the door, their faces behind it. Birth order isn't a lien, I answered. A neighbor slowed as he walked by, eyes flicking between me, the bag, and the family rooted on my porch. Heat crept across my face. That was the point. Humiliation as theater. I bent, lifted the suitcase without flinching. My voice carried clearly. I'm leaving to prevent escalation, not because I lack rights. I stepped back to the sidewalk, recording one final note into my phone. No signatures. No access granted. No consent to use. Not long after, my phone buzzed. 2 friends from Boston had texted, "We're 15 minutes out. Can we see the place?" Before I could answer, my mother's voice boomed from the porch speaker. "This is our retirement home. She's confused." My friend's reply, broadcast on speaker, stumbled out awkward. "Oh, sorry, we thought—" His sentence died in the air. I cut the call before it grew uglier. Then I texted both of them. Dispute in progress. Please don't engage. Paper over gossip. I'll explain later. Inside, my mother's eyes glimmered with satisfaction. Humiliation had been weaponized. I stood straight, lifted my chin, posture steady, voice level, even as the sting gnawed inside. I whispered to myself, "Don't recruit a cheering section, recruit evidence." I walked calmly to my car, opened the trunk, and laid the suitcase inside. Then I pulled my laptop from the passenger seat, hotspot active, and created a curbside office. I typed an email to my attorney, contemporaneous account, every word, time, and witness noted, photos attached. Next, I called the title company. I need certified deed copies, owner's policy number, and confirmation ready for pickup tomorrow. Then, the attorney's office. Please draft a simple, no trespass, no work notice. I'll sign tomorrow. Vendors are circling. I composed a cease and desist addressed to my family. Stop social posts, stop false claims of ownership. I kept the language clear, firm, but non-accusatory, actionable. Lastly, I scheduled a locksmith consult for tomorrow, contingent on counsel. No rash moves tonight, no police drama. I spoke into my recorder. Measure twice, cut once, especially with family. By sunset, I drove to an overlook by the ocean. The waves caught the light in bands of gold and steel. I unzipped the suitcase. Inside, 3 mismatched items, an old sweater, and a framed photo tossed face down. I lifted the photo, set it upright on the dash. The quote I carried in my mind came back. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. I pressed record on my phone again, this time for myself. 20 seconds only. They staged a public eviction. I'll stage a legal return. I mapped tomorrow in my head. Attorney consult, contractor notices, certified copies, a formal meeting request with counsel present. No narration of pain, only the plan. As darkness drew over the water, I whispered, "They sent me off with a suitcase. Tomorrow, I'll come back with a file." At 7:03 a.m., I parked on the public street outside the beach house. The gulls cried overhead, the smell of damp cedar shingles filled the air, and I carried the quiet determination of someone expecting a fight. I slid my key into the lock. Metal ground against metal, then stopped short. I tried again, same resistance. The cylinder was new, the finish slightly shinier, the edges sharp like it had been installed only hours earlier. I froze, pulse quick, then forced myself to still. I raised my phone, filmed a slow pan of the door, the frame, the lock. Timestamp. Evidence, not drama. I didn't force it. No jiggling, no rattling. I kept my voice level, speaking softly for my own record. No self-help. No trespass. The sidewalk is my witness. I stepped back, tapped out a quick log to myself. Date, time, lock change visible, mailbox unchanged since yesterday. No one answering. For protocol's sake, I knocked once, neutrally, just to document non-entry. Silence inside. I inhaled, let it go slow, and repeated the mantra I had built my life on. Facts over noise. Then I dialed my attorney. He answered on the second ring, his tone brisk. "Tell me what's happened." I outlined the porch eviction from last night, the suitcase, the humiliation, then the lock this morning. He didn't hesitate. Locks and utilities don't equal ownership. Don't confront them. Don't try the door again. Gather evidence only. "Already photographing," I said. "Good. Action items. Pick up certified deed copies from the title company. Pull closing disclosure and wire confirmations. Get your owner's title policy number. Draft a no work without consent notice for contractors. Email every vendor mentioned. You'll also need a document-only meeting. No more kitchen table ambushes." I nodded, though he couldn't see. "When?" "I'll schedule. For now, dictate a contemporaneous memo. Bullet points, your words, your timeline. Chain of custody matters." I spoke aloud into my recorder, reading the morning's events as though giving sworn testimony. "Schedule yourself at my office for 10:15. You'll sign demand letters. I'll give you a notice packet. Bring everything you have." "On my way," I answered. Before driving off, I did one last sweep from the curb. I photographed the cars in the driveway, the license plates, delivery tags hanging off the porch rail. A handwritten note was taped inside a window, illegible from here, but I zoomed in anyway. I dictated into my phone. New lock, brushed nickel, Schlag model, original keys in possession, house inaccessible. A handyman truck slowed near the curb. I raised a hand, waved politely. "Morning," I called. "Can I grab a card?" He handed it through the window, curious eyes flicking past me to the house. I didn't explain. I typed his name into my notes alongside the contractor the neighbor had mentioned earlier. 2 points of contact to halt work. I sent my attorney the photos and contractor details. His reply buzzed seconds later. Good. Paper trail first. I left without lingering. Winning the record was more important than winning the moment. By 9 a.m., I was parked near a quiet corner, laptop open, phone hot-spotted. First call, title company. "I need certified deed copies and a PDF of my owner's policy, ASAP. "Yes, Ms. Hastings," the clerk answered. "We'll have them ready by noon." Second call, my closing attorney's office in Boston. "Please resend my closing disclosure and wire receipts. Subject line, ownership verification, time sensitive." Third task, I drafted emails to both contractors. "I am the titled owner of property address. No work is authorized. Please provide written acknowledgement. You will not commence any services without my express written consent." I attached a photo of the front door. I blind copied my attorney. Then I drove to a copy shop. I printed packets, deed, closing disclosure, wire confirmations, 1-page no work notice. At the counter, I labeled 2 binders. Evidence, owner, and notices, third parties. I slid the pages inside sheet protectors, spines marked. If this went to video or mediation, clarity would matter. At 10:15, I sat in my attorney's Hyannis office, the blinds open to morning light, the conference table neat except for our papers. He looked up as I entered. "You kept calm. That's the point. The calmest person owns the room, and the record." We went line by line through my timeline. He drafted a document-only meeting request to their counsel, neutral location, no private homes, witnesses required. He slid me another draft, notice to cease and desist unauthorized use work. "This goes certified mail today, email copy as well." He spoke evenly, professional. "Don't involve police unless they block you from entering or threaten you directly. Today is paper, not confrontation." We discussed escalation. "If they continue occupancy claims, we file a court-backed demand. Keep the tone civil, language precise." I signed where he flagged, each line crisp under my pen. When we finished, he handed me a neat packet. "This is your quiet sword. Use it before you ever need a courtroom." By noon, I was back in my car on the public street near the house. I didn't approach the door. I emailed the no-work letter to the handyman, copied the neighbor's contractor. Then I drafted one short message to the family group chat. "All property discussions will occur through counsel. Please direct correspondence to Attorney Weiss." I saved screenshots of the read receipts, every reply logged. Speaking to my recorder, I said, "Utilities and locks are loud. Title is quiet and permanent." Then I started the car and pulled away. No gesture, no shouting, no theatrics. Only a plan tightening like a knot, strong enough to hold. By afternoon, they had a story and a lock. By evening, I had a file that could outlast both. I got there just as the day started cooling. I parked legally on the public street, a half-block down, and cut the engine. Music floated from the deck, upbeat, a little too loud for a weeknight. String lights glowed in soft loops along the rails. Cars lined both sides of the road. This wasn't a visit. This was an event. I lifted my phone and filmed from the sidewalk. Wide exterior, driveway, plates on the cars, only the plates, never faces. I turned on timestamp overlays, panned to the caterer's van pulled along the side path. Chafing dishes gleamed under a pop-up tent. A rolling bar cart clinked as someone arranged glassware. Someone had planned this. I texted my attorney. Large gathering, public-facing, no entry, staying curbside. Then I spoke softly into my recorder. When people reach for an audience, they're usually reaching for a story. Tonight, I'm collecting facts. A breeze moved through the scrub pines. I stood in the public right-of-way and let the camera rest at my side. I didn't belong inside their story. I belonged here, on the record. A round of laughter rose, then my father's voice carried bright and clear. "To our new family beach home!" Cheers answered him. Glasses touched. I saw my mother lift a flute beneath a framed sign now sitting on my mantel. Family by the sea. Not mine. Theirs. Two older relatives drifted toward the railing and nodded at the view. A cousin gestured toward the bunkroom window. "The boys will love summers here," he said to someone I couldn't see, as if I were a rumor. I tracked the details. On the mantel where my college photo had lived, a legacy collage now smiled back at them. Childhood shots of my sister, wedding pictures of my parents, a random lighthouse print. Not a single photo of me, symbolic erasure, curated with care. My stomach tightened, but I didn't move. I didn't correct anyone. I widened my frame and captured another contextual shot from the sidewalk. House, lights, guests, sky. Context, not confrontation. I typed a message to Aunt Maribel. "Please note Dad's toast." Her reply came fast. I heard it. I slid the phone into my pocket and kept breathing. Possession can be loud, I told myself. Ownership is quiet. Quiet lasts. Two neighbors I'd met earlier strolled by with a beagle and stopped when they saw me. The husband's smile faltered. "Congrats to your folks. Big step." Neutral face. Even tone. "Enjoy the evening," I said. They nodded, uncertain, and continued on. I opened my notes app. Third-party repetition. Their home. Time, location logged. I spoke to my recorder again. What people repeat isn't proof, it's reach. Paper outruns gossip. The lane was filling up, and I didn't want a parked car to become a provocation. I got back in, rolled forward to the marina lot a street away, and took a minute to reset. 2 hands on the wheel. 3 slow breaths. The sky darkened to that blue that feels like fabric. When my pulse was steady, I walked back. My phone buzzed with a new notification just as I reached the curb again. My sister's public post flashed across the screen. Family's new 3M beach house, geotagged, then a carousel of interior photos. My kitchen, my living room, my bedroom window with the ocean framed beyond it. Comments poured in. Goals. They deserve it. What a gift to your parents. I didn't reply. I screen recorded. I scrolled the comments and captured them all, geotag included, then saved an HTML copy and a PDF with the timestamp. I drafted a calm email. Your post contains false ownership claims and geotagged interiors. Remove the geotag immediately for safety. Cease further unauthorized representations. Sophrona Hastings, titled owner. I BCC'd my attorney, attached the screen record, and sent. Then I added a note to my recorder. Screenshots are nice. Screen records with scroll, refresh, and timestamp are better. A laugh rose from the deck. I kept my gaze on my phone. I wasn't there to measure applause. I was there to measure evidence. The caterer's staff wheeled another cart toward the side path. The van door bore the company logo and a phone number. I typed the brand into a new email. Hello, I am the titled owner of address. Please note I have not authorized any event bookings at this property. I carry no unpaid balance for tonight's service. Kindly annotate your records that future events require written permission from me as owner. Thank you. I CC'd the handyman and the second contractor from yesterday's card. Subject line, no work, no events without owner consent. Attachments. Photo of the door, a context shot of the deck lights glowing over strangers. I forwarded everything to my attorney with a short memo. Pattern of public misrepresentation. Evidence pack attached. Then I wrote one neutral text to the family chat. Your posts misstate ownership. Please route any further communication through counsel. I stepped under a street lamp and let the light fall on my shoes. I breathed until my shoulders dropped. I'm not here to win a crowd, I muttered. I'm here to win the record. A cousin texted me. Family meeting here tomorrow at 10 a.m. Come make peace. I typed, public venue or counsel's office only. Document only meeting. A direct message popped up from my sister. If you don't show, we'll take next steps. I answered with one sentence. Title says the next steps will be mine. From the sidewalk, I scheduled a noon slot at the same cafe with cameras and sent a formal invite through my attorney to theirs. Paper first. Every time. Across the lawn, my father lifted another glass. Laughter floated over the hedge. I closed my trunk, took one more look at the deck lights, and refused the old urge to explain myself to anyone who wasn't listening. I'll make your boundary boring, I said softly for the recorder. Boring holds. I walked back to my car, the string lights dim in my rear view. They raised a glass to a story. I raised a file to the truth. I arrived 10 minutes before 10 and chose the same corner table I'd scouted yesterday, the one with both ceiling cameras in frame if I leaned back 2 inches. My back to the wall, I laid out 2 folders with their tabs lined like rails. Evidence, owner to the left, notices, third parties to the right. I ordered a plain coffee and pulled a small notepad from my bag. First line, the time. Second line, my opener. Show your documents, I'll show mine. No signatures, no pressure. I pressed the pen tip against those words until the dot bled a little. After that, I wrote 3 rails I wouldn't let us slide past. No shouting, no personal attacks, no touching my papers. Then a quick text to my attorney. Seated, proceeding under document-only terms. His return flickered onto the screen. Paper speaks. I slipped the phone face down, squared the folder edges again, and waited for the bell over the door. The bell rang. They entered like a cast called to the stage at once. My father with a manila envelope, mouth set. My mother holding a stapled script as if she were about to read aloud. My sister already recording, phone horizontal, face composed for an audience I could not see. We'll keep this organized, my father said, still standing. Parents take the primary bedroom. Your sister gets the bunk room for the boys. We reserve Memorial Day, the 4th, and Labor Day. You can have fall weekends. I looked at him, not the camera my sister had trained on me. Do you have any recorded ownership, title, deed, lien, on file with the county? My mother slid a document forward. This is our family schedule of use, she said, as if that answered more than one question. My sister tapped the page with one painted nail. It's equitable. Scheduling assumes ownership, I said. We aren't at that gate. I wrote down my father's line verbatim, then the time. A cousin they'd brought as a witness leaned into the light. Fairness says share. Fairness is a virtue, I answered, but ownership is a record. I wrote that down, too. My father gestured toward the pastry case at the counter, where a small placard read, Notary Public. We can keep this simple. It already is simple, I said. Bring recorded documents. He didn't. Pressure changed shape. My father called last night's gathering community acknowledgement, as if applause wrote law. My mother shifted from calendars to sacrifice. We supported you through school, she said. We put stability beneath you. It's time to secure our retirement. My sister angled her phone closer. 10,000 likes say it's ours, she said, like an oath. The registry doesn't count likes, I answered. It counts filings. The bell chimed again. A notary stepped to our table and set down her journal and stamp. She uncapped the seal and laid it on a small rubber pad, waiting. My father slid a single signature page toward me, blank lines glinting in the morning light. I didn't touch the paper. I lifted my eyes toward the nearest camera and said, clear enough for anyone to hear. A notary witnesses consent. It cannot create it. My sister gave a small, practiced laugh. She thinks she's teaching a class. I slid a one-page notice across the table to her, printed, date-stamped. Your public posts misstate ownership and include geotagged interiors. Remove the geotags. Cease unauthorized claims. Then I opened the evidence, owner folder, and began laying down pages as if I were setting placemats. One, then the next, aligned to the table's edge. Certified deed copy, legal description highlighted. Closing disclosure, my funds to close, circled. Wire confirmations on bank letterhead, my account to escrow. Amounts and dates matching the disclosure exactly. For the record, I said, title is in my name alone. Funds from my account alone. No recorded liens. No shared ownership. My mother reached reflexively to straighten a corner. I lifted my hand an inch, and she withdrew, eyes flashing. "Utilities and locks prove control," she said crisply. "Utilities reflect occupancy," I said. "Locks can be changed overnight. Title endures." I squared the stack and asked the only question that mattered. "Do you wish to present any recorded document that contradicts these?" Quiet fell across the table, like frost. My sister leaned toward my father and spoke under her breath. He straightened and said carefully, "We have something better than paper. Family." "Family isn't a filing," I replied. I let silence sit another beat. Then I reached into the side pocket of my bag and set a small drive in the center of the table, followed by 3 clipped transcript excerpts. The paper was redacted where it should be. The timestamps stood like mile markers. "What is that?" my sister asked. "Context," I said. "From your own words." I kept it simple. Audio from the porch and living room on the night you discussed replacing the mailbox plate, changing the locks, and, your phrase, making it look like retirement property. My father's gaze flicked to the notary, then back to me. "The porch is a spot where guests spoke audibly from the public vantage," I continued. "Inside, I am the titled owner. If you have legal questions about admissibility, our attorneys can discuss them." I slid the first excerpt toward my father. Highlighted line: "Change everything over, mail, utilities, so it looks like ours." The second went to my sister. Highlighted: "I'll post the carousel. People will believe it." The third I placed before my mother. The timestamp matched her toast. She drew in a thin breath. "This is invasive." "The court decides admissibility," I said, "but facts don't move because we find them inconvenient." Across from me, the notary capped her stamp, uncapped it, then left it resting on the pad. She was reading. "Narrative travels fast," I said, almost softly. "Evidence travels farther." My father tapped an index finger against the table. "We can still resolve this neatly. Sign a temporary use agreement." "No signatures today," I said. "None." From the second folder, I drew a 2-page letter and laid it where the signature page had been. "Document-only meeting request," I said. "Neutral site, counsel present, witnesses welcome, no social posting during discussions." Then I set down the next paper. "Notice to cease and desist unauthorized use/work," I read. "Contractors and vendors are copied. Service confirmed by certified mail today." My sister's voice went tight. "You're humiliating us." "You staged a story," I said. "I brought the record." The cousin looked back and forth between us. "Maybe everyone just takes a breath." "We are breathing," I said. "We're also reading. That's the difference." My father's jaw set. "You're tearing this family apart." "Drawing a boundary isn't tearing," I answered. "It's drawing." The notary lifted her journal a half-inch. "Do you require me to witness anything?" "Not today," I said. "Thank you." I gathered my pages, leaving a clean copy set for their counsel. Tabs visible, edges flush, nothing sloppy for anyone to claim confusion later. My chair legs made no scrape when I stood. Neither did my voice. Outside, the light had shifted brighter, the street noisier with late-morning foot traffic. I sat in my car and opened the email my attorney had sent during the meeting. 2 attachments. I signed both on my screen, my fingertips steady, then hit send. I forwarded the transcript set with a brief line. "Evidence delivered, ground rules served, proceeding counsel to counsel only." A text from my sister appeared. "You made us look small." I typed one line back. "Respect the record." Then I put the phone face down and watched a couple cross Main Street with paper cups and canvas totes, unaware of the war that had just edged toward peace by paperwork. They had walked into that cafe to divide a house with calendars, sentiment, and applause. I walked in to define it with law, dates, and ink. I didn't need to win the room. I needed to win the ledger. At 2:14 p.m., as I sat in my car outside the cafe, my phone buzzed with a voicemail notification. The number was unfamiliar, but local. I pressed play. A man's voice, professional and polite, introduced himself as a loan officer from a Cape bank. "We had a visit from your parents this morning," he said. "They asked about a home equity product on the beach house. We need your authorization as titled owner to proceed. Please call back. The words were simple, but the impact hit like a gavel. They had gone beyond stories, beyond toasts and posts. They were trying to turn my house into collateral. I replayed the message twice, wrote the date, time, name, and callback number on my pad. Then I dialed back on speaker, my voice steady. This is Sophrona Hastings. I just received your voicemail. To be clear, I am the sole titled owner of that property. No loan inquiry should be processed without my written authorization. The officer hesitated, then said, "Yes, ma'am." I can confirm no action has been taken. Your parents only asked about options. Nothing moves forward without your signature. Please send me a short email to that effect, I requested. No authorization exists. Process halted. He agreed. Within minutes, the email arrived. Neutral but explicit. No authorization from the titled owner. I forwarded it to my attorney, BCC'd myself, and stored it in my evidence, owner folder. The library was quiet when I walked in an hour later, the smell of paper and printer ink thick in the air. I sat at a public computer and pulled up the county docket search. Typing their names, I found what I suspected, a small claims judgment against my father, tied to a failed investment last year. Case number, date, amount, all public record. I printed the docket summary, stapled the receipt, and tucked it into my folder. Facts, not feelings. I reviewed my binder again in the car. Certified deed copy, closing disclosure, wire confirmations, title policy number, and now the loan officer's email plus the docket printout. The file was becoming heavy in more ways than one. I sent a memo to my attorney. Parents attempted to leverage house for bank loan. Public record shows judgment against father. All docs attached. His reply came quickly. Bring everything to office. 5:00 meeting. Counsel to counsel format. By late afternoon, I was seated across from them again, this time in my attorney's conference room. Neutral ground, blinds half closed, every word recorded by notes on both sides. My father looked tired, my mother tense, my sister defiant. Their counsel cleared his throat and gestured at a thin file. We believe fairness dictates a shared use agreement, he began. My attorney gestured for me to go first. I opened my binder, one page at a time, speaking evenly. Certified deed copy. My name alone. Closing disclosure. Funds wired from my account. Wire confirmations. Title policy. Loan officer's email stating no authorization exists. Public docket summary of a judgment against my father. All records, all verifiable. My father's face drained color. We supported you for years, he muttered. I answered calmly. Parental support is not a recorded lien. My sister slammed her palm on the table. You humiliated us in front of the whole town. People think we're frauds. You published false claims, I said. I answered with documents. My mother leaned forward, eyes sharp. You're tearing this family apart. I shook my head slowly. No. You tried to leverage my property for your debt. I drew a boundary. I slid the loan officer's email across the table. This is what your plan produced, a paper trail you can't deny. Their counsel shifted uncomfortably. We will need time to review these materials. You'll have time, my attorney said smoothly. But the house already has boundaries. Silence followed, thick and taut. My father's hands trembled against the folder edge. My mother whispered, We didn't mean. You meant enough to try, I interrupted. My tone stayed even, and the record now shows it. I gathered my binder, each page squared, each clip aligned. My attorney nodded once, signaling the session was done. As we stood, Aunt Maribel, who had quietly sat in the back, spoke for the first time. Paper wins. Stop before you lose what isn't paper. Her words landed heavier than any of mine. I walked out without looking back. They wanted a myth to shelter in. I showed them the roof already had a deed. The next morning broke clean and sharp, no fog, no clouds. I was at the broker's office by 8, sitting across from a woman who had sold half the waterfront in town. She spread the papers in front of me, her pen poised. Are you sure? She asked, eyes searching mine. Yes, I said. My voice didn't shake. I'm selling the story they wrote and keeping the truth. I handed her the certified deed copy, the closing disclosure, the wire receipts. She scanned them, nodding. Paper first, picture second, she murmured. This will list clean. We discussed the strategy. Coming soon, rider on the sign. No showings until counsel cleared. All inquiries routed by email. I insisted. No phone calls. I want a traceable record for every question and answer. She smiled. That's unusual, she said, but smart. When I signed the listing agreement, my signature looped steady across the page. A line cut through years of manipulation. By mid-morning, a man hammered the signpost into the ground by my hedge. The white board gleamed against the green with a bold red rider, coming soon. I stood on the public sidewalk and watched him level it. Neighbors slowed. One snapped a photo. A contractor's van idled halfway down the block, then pulled away. I lifted my phone, filmed the sign, time-stamped the clip, and sent it to my attorney and broker. Listing live. A text buzzed in the family group. Take that sign down immediately. My reply was short. All communication through counsel. My sister sent 3 exploding head emojis. I didn't respond. They staged a party, I murmured into my recorder. I staged a marketplace. By noon, my broker had already fielded 2 inquiries. One couple from Boston wanted proof of sole ownership. I authorized a redacted deed and the title policy number. Another neighbor intercepted me as I walked back to my car. We thought it was your parents' retirement home, she said softly. And I met her eyes. Records said otherwise all along. I left it at that. At my desk, I approved the draft MLS description, changing one line to read, meticulously maintained Cape Cod with verified sole title. My broker chuckled. You're writing for buyers and judges both. Exactly, I said. At 2 o'clock, my phone rang again. This time, a local patrol officer. His tone was neutral. We got a call last night, Miss Hastings. Your parents said you were trespassing at the beach house. I'm the titled owner, I answered calmly. Would you like the deed? Yes, ma'am. If you could email a copy, we'll log it. I sent a PDF, certified deed, closing disclosure, attorney letter. His reply came 10 minutes later. Civil matter. No criminal trespass by owner. I forwarded the chain to my attorney and broker. Sunlight, I noted aloud, is documentation. A new ping in the family chat. You called the cops on us? I typed one line. They called you first. I answered with documents. A silence followed. That evening, I sat at the overlook with the sea opening wide before me. The sold sign would come soon enough, but for now, coming soon was enough. It wasn't just a notice to buyers, it was a declaration to my family and to anyone who believed their version. By dusk, I whispered into my recorder. By noon, the town had a sign. By night, my family had a mirror. The morning after the listing went live, my inbox held a new message. It came from their counsel, but the words had my mother's fingerprints all over them. Don't humiliate us. Take the sign down. No acknowledgement of what they'd done. No apology. Just a plea for image control. I opened a blank reply, wrote 4 words, and sent it through my attorney. Respect the record. Heal. No more, no less. Attached were the delivery receipts from the cease and desist, the police clarification, and the MLS listing confirmation. Let them see how the file now spoke louder than any performance. I muted the family chat, auto-archived their pings. Boundaries could be settings as much as spoken lines. Then I made tea, turned on my lamp, and wrote on a sticky note above my desk. Paper over pressure. That night I slept without dreams because the facts were already carrying the weight for me. By afternoon, I had errands in town. Outside the brokerage, I saw them waiting. My parents, standing on the town green as if hoping the setting would soften me. Mother's voice came low. Please don't shame us in front of everyone. We only wanted security. Father added quickly. We were trying to make sure retirement was safe. Just take the sign down. I held my binder at my side, not as a weapon, but as ballast. You changed locks. You called the house yours. You asked a bank to put debt on it. My sister walked up midway, phone in hand, the lens catching light. I looked at the camera bolted above the bank door across the street. This moment already had witnesses. You did that yourselves, I said evenly. All I did was show the proof. They blinked, taken aback by the plainness of the words. I added softer. All communication continues through counsel. The listing proceeds. I stepped back, not fast, not dramatic. Aunt Maribel, standing behind them, gave one small nod. Enough had been said. The digital backpedal began that night. My sister quietly edited her viral caption again. No more claims of family's new beach house, only a carousel of photos. I screen recorded the changelog, exported it to PDF, and filed it. Vendors confirmed in my inbox. Caterer noted no further bookings. Handyman replied, received, no work will be commenced. My attorney sent a draft of a mutual non-disparagement agreement. Not reconciliation, not warmth. Just a lid on the noise. I forwarded the police incident log to my broker, adding it to the buyer's packet. No surprises, I wrote in the margin. The next day, I arranged for movers to collect boxes of personal items from storage. I refused to re-enter the beach house myself. Let the record stay uncontaminated. A cousin asked for a family-only walkthrough. I declined and sent a read-only link to the MLS listing instead. At dusk, a neighbor approached me on the street. I'm sorry, he said quietly. We didn't know the truth. The records were there all along, I answered. Then I left it at that. Before bed, I opened my journal. One line only. Closure isn't an apology. It's a decision. I closed the book, set it on the nightstand, and looked out at the lights on the harbor. They wanted mercy for their image. I chose protection for my future. The sun climbed over the harbor the morning the offer came. I opened my inbox with the steady calm of someone expecting another battle. But instead, there it was. All cash. Verified funds. Attorney reviewed. The number was strong, the terms clean. No seller financing, no contingencies beyond a short inspection. I called my broker. Accept, I said. She paused. No counter? No counter, I confirmed. I want closure, not theater. Within the hour, I had signed. A new line joined my file. Buyer's name, earnest money wired, closing date fixed. I texted Aunt Maribel a single word. Today. She answered with one line that carried more weight than any legal brief. Take the door that leads to light. At noon, the coming soon rider came down, replaced with one word. Sold. I stood on the sidewalk, the Atlantic wind lifting my hair. Neighbors passed, some glancing, some pretending not to. A contractor who had once parked in my drive shook his head, muttering, "Didn't see that coming." My sister's car slowed at the corner. She saw the sign, rolled her window up, and drove on. I filmed the rider change, saved the clip, time-stamped it, and filed it with the rest. This isn't just a sale, I murmured. It's a verdict. Later that afternoon, I sat in my attorney's conference room as escrow confirmed the wire. His secretary slid the statement across to me. Funds cleared, deed transferred. You're officially out, he said. I was out the moment I signed the listing, I replied. Today is just paperwork catching up. He smiled. Paper always wins. I signed the last move-out protocol, ensuring any of my parents' belongings inside would be cataloged, boxed, and picked up under supervision. No keys, no secret returns, only receipts. When I stepped outside, Aunt Maribel was waiting. She took my hand, squeezed it. You kept your promise to yourself, she said simply. I nodded. No celebration, no gloating, just air, salt, and the clarity of being untethered. Minutes later, my parents appeared on the curb. My mother's voice broke the silence. Can we see it one last time? I shook my head. It belongs to someone else now. Any access goes through their agent. My father tried again. Don't do this to us. I didn't, I said. You did. My sister asked, what do we tell the family? Tell them the truth, I said. That you signed a waiver. That evening, I unpacked the last small box in my Marina Side apartment. I placed one framed photo on the wall, a picture of the sea at dusk from years ago, taken on a rented vacation when the dream first planted itself. I brewed tea, opened the window to let the gulls and tide roll in, and whispered a final line into my recorder. They tried to claim my house. I claimed my life. The lamp glowed warm in the corner. Outside, boats bobbed, free to move with the tide. Inside, I finally felt the same.